Marcel, where are you going with that disc? You are not putting that on again. Marcel, okay, if you press that button, you are in very, very big trouble.
Attention. Everybody stop what you're doing. It's time for The Unwritten Rule, a Mizzou sports podcast brought to you by the Believe Network, alongside Payton Haverman and Kenny Van Doren. Here is your host, Jack Knowlton.
Welcome back to The Unwritten Rule. Today is Friday, June 27th. And boy, oh boy, did we have quite the setup in our last show for what did turn out to be a huge recruiting haul for Missouri football in the last couple of days. If you've lost count, they're now up to 7 commits in the class of 2026, and they got 3 of them in a 3-day span. We're going to talk about each guy from Monday to Wednesday. Probably fortunate for the sake of our recording is that, hopefully they don't keep this going and make it a 5 out of 5 thing by some miracle. But Missouri absolutely rolled to start the week. 2 of the guys we talked about yesterday we'll get to in Khalief Canty and Maxwell Warner. We talked about them last show. Go check that out if you haven't, but we'll talk about them more in depth here as well. But we're going to start with the latest player to come off the board and pledge to Mizzou, and it's their first wide receiver pledge of the class of 2026. It is Devyon Hill-Lomax, a 3-star wide receiver, went to Edwardsville High School, of course in Edwardsville, Illinois, picked Mizzou over Cincinnati and Purdue. I know he pledged over an official visit. Kenny, I will throw it over to you right away for your just kind of initial thoughts here. This was a guy, when we did that recruiting show last show, we didn't talk about him. Obviously you sometimes see these OVs yield to kind of speed up kids' timelines if they really liked the school and liked the fit. Were you surprised at all by Hill-Lomax making his decision when he did? And talk to us about his just recruitment, Mizzou's interest there.
I will start off. He is the second wide receiver commit. Jabari Brady was the first one.
My bad.
But that's 3 pass catchers now that are 6'3" or taller. Jabari Brady's listed at 6'3". Hill-Lomax is 6'5". And Isaac Jensen, the tight end, is 6'6". So good group of tall pass catchers so far in this class. And I will say, Jack, it was a little bit surprised just on the timing. I was kind of told to be more on the lookout by the weekend, just as Mizzou is trying to plan out which wide receivers were going to end up on the Tigers. They missed on Mason James, and Washington, really ponied up there and gave him gave him the best package. And he ended up choosing the Huskies over Missouri earlier this month. And so going into this weekend, you had to feel pretty good about Devyon Hill-Lomax. He tweets, he was retweeting stuff for the last couple months, anything Mizzou related. He loved Jacob Peeler. He just loved the way he coached. But a big thing just about Devyon Hill-Lomax is that he doesn't share much. Like, that's an interesting thing. It's, some of these guys are very open. Some of them don't really talk much. And that's kind of in part to what I've heard is that Edwardsville's football program just doesn't, chooses not to share much with the media and kind of teaches that with its players as well. So it's just one of those cases where not much is being released from his camp, and so we didn't have too much to really expect on his end, but kind of a freak athlete. I was talking with Edgy Tim O'Halloran from Rivals, and Tim O'Halloran, and he was saying, this is a guy who could be, a high-end 3-star, mid to high-end 3-star. He has a lot of talents. Everyone kind of points to what he can do in the high jump, a 6'8" high jump, but impressive size at 6'5", 193 pounds. The stats don't jump off the page last year. I think he only was listed in 7 games, so maybe there was something that limited him there. But one of those things where you just don't have too much information on the guy to really tell you why those numbers were that way. But Mizzou got him on campus, offered him in the fall during the Auburn game, got him back on campus in March for a spring visit on Junior Day, and just kind of sealed the deal this weekend. And they lined it up perfectly with Maxwell Warner on Monday. Pushed back. Khalief Canty was expecting to do on Monday, but he pushed it back to Tuesday. He did his on Tuesday, and then Devyon Hill-Lomax was the next one for Wednesday. So 3 in as many days is what they say, and Mizzou kind of just finished it up there. But I wouldn't say they're done at wide receiver though. The reason I was saying that they were still kind of fleshing out, how this class would look, and I was told maybe just hold off on, doing any writing on Devyon Hill-Lomax, is that they still like Jaden Petit, who also visited this past weekend. I think a big thing about this past official visit weekend is that quarterback commit Gavin Sidwar was also there. So that offered him an opportunity to meet these guys, mesh with them, tell them, how this offense will work. Because of anyone that's, committed already, he knows more than anyone else. And that's not just because he's, the first guy, he's the quarterback. Like that's, they've taught him so much. He's, centered around it. And a lot of what he's been doing at LaSalle in Pennsylvania is what they're going to be doing at the next level with Missouri. So he's getting these kind of tall pass catchers, and he's really related with Jaden Petit as well. He's going to try to reach out to him when he's down in Florida this week for OT7, and he's going to go on vacation in Naples, where Petit lives. So Mizzou's still in the picture there. Still a take is what I was told. And it's more about, how the negotiations work, in terms of, is this the best fit for me package wise, opportunities, playing time, everything that, fits in that equation that's never really been written down. And, that's what it's going to be, because Oklahoma seems like, the biggest competition for Petit for Missouri.
Yeah, Payton, I'll throw this to you because I think it's interesting. Kenny pointing out, you've got Hill-Lomax now at 6'5", Brady at 6'3". Obviously, Jensen's a tight end, but at 6'6". When you look at, and especially you think about what Kenny said too, with some maybe holes in Hill-Lomax's stats. You're not quite sure if all of what he did last year statistically. What do you feel about that kind of model that Jacob Peeler looks like he's taken now, with this 2026 wide receiver group? Obviously, he's a recruiter and a developer that's pretty trusted, but it seems like, he kind of has a type, and I wonder if Hill-Lomax here trying to project a little bit, maybe a kind of a diamond in the rough type of situation, and a guy that Peeler sees as developing into something pretty special. But what do you make of kind of his recruitment strategy with this 26 class, targeting maybe those bigger receivers and bringing in these guys?
It may just come down to he wants kind of more size, like on the roster. Not everyone on Mizzou's roster is like a prototypically tall, big 50-50 guy, I'd say. So it makes kind of some sense to want to add some guys like Devyon Hill-Lomax, who's 6'5", only 193, definitely more of a projection pickup, I'd say. Because it's at 6'5", 193, obviously he's not going to be, I'm not saying he needs to be Megatron or anything like that, but Calvin Johnson, was 6'5", 236. So definitely needs some bulking up to do, but I'd imagine it's just more of like a looking at the roster and saying, you know what, we need more height. We need guys that can maybe go up and grab it. And I think that's what they are maybe looking for with Hill-Lomax.
Especially with how good like Theo Weiss worked in that offense the last 2 years. I think you want to, address that, because when you look at the roster, the tallest wide receiver option is James Madison at 6'3". And I wouldn't necessarily say like he's, go up and be a 50-50 guy, but we still just haven't seen that yet. So maybe things will change this season as he sees more of the playing time on the field. But some of those more primary options that you'll see this year, Josh Manning is 6'2", Donovan Olubade is 6'1", Marquise Johnson is 5'11", Kevin Coleman, who won't play with these guys, most certainly, I think we can say that, is 5'10" because he's a senior. Sean Terry, who's going to be a slot option moving forward at 5'10", same with Demarion Folks, 5'9" slot option. So I think you never really go out there, and it's the same thing with like a draft, when you're projecting guys like this, you don't always just go draft on need, or you draft or, recruit guys on need. You recruit guys that fit the program, fit the offense, fit what you're looking for. And there's always, trends on what types of guys they like, different types of, pass pro offensive linemen, or, different types of wide receivers that can do different things. When you look at maybe that future of that wide receiver core, maybe you are looking to see how many guys you can bring in that add those opportunities to stretch the field. Especially when you have different quarterbacks coming in. It's not the same, Brady Cook, and Brady struggled at times with deep balls, but still really used Theo Weiss to his advantage. And I think that's what this offense kind of did well on, is in those opportunities where you need a play downfield. You're going to throw it up, and I think that's what they're going to look for moving forward with some of these taller pass catchers. And Jaden Petit, 6'4", 220 pounds.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting kind of transition we're maybe seeing into that model. And obviously, you trust, even if he is a 3-star, it might not look like the flashiest recruit you get in with Jacob Peeler. It doesn't really matter where you were ranked coming in. He can turn wide receivers into really good talents. I did watch his little weeks 1 through 7 tape on Huddle. And it is funny, Kenny, you mentioned that about the first 25% of that video was just him running go balls down the field and just catching it over a guy. So there was a lot of that there. He threw in a couple blocking highlights in it too, which I loved. It was just running plays where he's just blocking on the outside. He also did return one punt for, I don't think he housed it, but he returned it pretty far. So maybe there's some skill in there too. Not to overemphasize the tape, but yeah. Hill-Lomax, the first recruit, or I guess the last recruit in this trio, and the second of Missouri's wide receiver pledges in 2026. The next one, Kenny mentioned it, or I think I did at the top of the show, came on Tuesday. It was Khalief Canty Jr. Kenny said, he was potentially going to announce on Monday along with Warner, but went with Tuesday, picked Missouri over a couple schools. I know Michigan State, Pittsburgh was in there. It was a four-star offensive lineman, went to Cass Tech, where Devin Nicholson, former Missouri linebacker, and now the linebackers coach, of course, at Cass, went. So he has a big connection there. Kenny, how big was that in his recruitment? What maybe if if you talk to Canty, was maybe Nicholson's pitch to him? I was kind of curious about that. But a big ad here, a top, kind of 200 guy, top 10 offensive lineman coming in for the Tigers here. I like this ad at 6'5", 305, Khalief Canty Jr.
He's been a big offseason riser. He was a 3-star offensive tackle listed when Mizzou was really first recruiting him. I mean, he almost committed to Missouri in April, and I think the big win for Mizzou is sticking with him and sticking to it through those official visits. He officially visited Michigan State, North Carolina, and Missouri. It came down to just really Michigan State and Missouri, even though Pittsburgh was listed in that top 3, never got the OV. Went to Rivals 5-star, and I thought he looked great. He's a very physical, aggressive kid. And one big thing that just always stood out to me, and I tweeted this and wrote about it a couple times, is that he couldn't get his eyes off of the other reps of the other guys that were in those 1v1s in the offensive and defensive line group. He was so fixated. Other guys are, talking about, anything, just recruiting, anything else, what's going on, at this camp. And he's just not off by himself, but he's in the group, but he's just, fixated. And if he missed a rep, he would get into push-ups. I saw him do that, once or twice. And so he's just a bulldog mentality, and one of the big things that he's going to enroll early. He's already decided that he wants to contribute as soon as he can, and that's just he's very confident in himself. And I even asked him, ask him a couple questions. Different things will perk different people up, and the one that probably got him the most excited was just talking about that mentality he has. And he says, his dad told him at a young age, it's whatever you do, be number one at it. Why not be number one at what you're doing? And there were some guys that were they're in the 1v1 parts where he was lining up against the defensive tackles, they would just bull rush him. And you're not supposed to do that in these 1v1s. It's it's not safe to do that to begin with. It's a very finesse drill, showing them what you have in your tool bag, as they say. And they were yelling at him, oh, you're run blocking. And he's this guy has no finesse. He just yelled it back at him, and he's very confident in himself, and he's going to stand his ground. And I think that's a big thing. And I think when he gets on the Mizzou roster, we'll start to call him KJ, because I know he goes by KJ too, not just Khalief. And but just all around, just massive kid. And he's very, very polite off the field, but on the field, he just seemed as they say, a demon. Just on the offensive line. And Mizzou was very excited about what they saw from him too in the Rivals 5-star, and just holding his own. And he was a part of the group that won the big man challenge. So he got a ring, he got a pair of cleats. Probably just a great week for him, just wrapping up that Mizzou OV. And he's silently committed on Sunday, but for all these guys, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity to do this stuff. And he did it his own way. And we held off until Tuesday, and he went through the process, posted his video, thanked his mom, grandmother, whole entire family. And it was a big win for Mizzou. Mizzou really loves what they're going to get out of Khalief Canty, and just what he wants to do. He wants to contribute early, and I think they like that mentality from him too.
Payton, that's the first, obviously Brandon Jones, the offensive line coach, pretty good start for him. And I think, too, if you're Gavin Sidwar, you have to be pretty excited. Do you have a take on Khalief, Payton? I have a trash talk thing, but I wanted to, if you have any additional thoughts on him. You should unmute yourself to say it too.
We broke him down pretty heavily on Sunday. I know. Just huge kid, if those measurables are even remotely accurate, which is encouraging. I love the kind of the confident trash talk he had against, like Kenny mentioned. I mean, like just getting bull rushed and shouting it back out at them. That's a lot of fun to me. Um, I'm a big fan of building through the trenches. I think Missouri has benefited big time from having two really a downright elite O-line in 2023 and a pretty solid one last season as well. So the more just kind of talent you can stack there, I'm all in favor of that.
Kenny, did you say, I want to touch the trash talk thing. You said he shouted back at them that they have no finesse.
Yeah, so they were like, he's run blocking, and you what? I mean, I didn't get this video. The defensive tackle just sprinted at him. And
Yeah.
you're not supposed to do that in these drills because you don't have pads on. And he just yelled, he has no technique. Like he's like,
This reminds me of have you guys seen the clip where it's Kevin Garnett and he's talking about how Hakeem Olajuwon trash talks and he just goes, he has no lateral movement. He can't do anything. Like, how am I supposed to respond to that? Like, that's like technical trash talk. It's not even
very
just
formal.
you suck, you're trash. You have no finesse. You have no finesse moves.
Yeah, so I did ask him. I meant to answer this part of your question too, Jack, about Devin Nicholson.
Yeah.
We played linebacker at Mizzou, and I asked him about it once, just like it was a simple text. I was just kind of looking for something in my notebook I was writing, and he was just like, "Yeah, like he told me to always keep keep an open mind about Mizzou, keep my eye on the Tigers." And then he just kind of went into just the competition between the linebackers and the offensive line, and you don't really hear that very often. It's usually like competition between the defensive and offensive line. He's like, yeah, just in practice, like we just go as hard as we can against those guys. And that's what just kind of plays in that competitive nature I was telling you guys about. It's just even when I wanted to, ask him about, there's a Mizzou guy on his high school staff. He wanted to talk about what they do in practice instead. So I think people are, be pretty excited just about Khalief, and he wants to come in and, do his thing very, very early on. And I can tell you, Gavin Sidwar was pretty excited about him too. They officially visited together this past weekend before the NCAA Dead Period.
Yeah, exciting addition. And Khalief Canty Jr., KJ, as we might have to get used to calling him. You know what I'm realizing? Mizzou's building just a nice 7-on-7 team, a very balanced list of commits. You got a wide receiver, offensive lineman, running back, tight end, another wide receiver, linebacker, and quarterback. If you sub that second receiver for like a secondary guy, you could just run a 7v7 team out there. But the last commit we'll touch on is that running back. He committed on Monday. It's Maxwell Warner out of Chicago, went to Whitney Young High School, of course, has the Dennis Gates connection there as being a fellow Whitney Young product. So if nothing else, that's probably a good endorsement. Boston College in Illinois, Miami, I know we're all in there. Kenny, I'll just throw it to you. I'm curious, first of all, what Curtis Looper, I know, kind of what made him intrigued about Warner, and then kind of talk about his process as well, like you did with the other guys.
I don't think I was texting someone about this. Just it's in Illinois. I was talking to me about Maxwell Warner. I don't think there's like necessarily always an exact science. You talk about the wide zone, and maybe getting a running back that can also be a pass catcher. Swiss Army knife out of the high school ranks. And sometimes he's just trying to find the best guy that really just fits. Everything, just checks all the boxes that he's looking for. And I think Warner did that. He's a guy that you were watching his film on was it Sunday show or Monday show, and you guys were very excited just about the physical nature of him, and him playing.
It's
in the
very fun
secondary
tape.
too.
Go watch it. It's very fun.
And like we talked about then, his stepdad, it really leaned in with him, watching a lot of these old school runners, put his head down and run through someone. And he can still be elusive. He has those soccer and track skills that he's tried to translate. And he's a little bit newer to football too. He tried it out freshman year and then turned into this 3-star running back out of Chicago. And the competition, I heard it isn't as stellar in the league that they're playing. But this fall, this is one of those opportunities where a lot of these guys are poised to make jumps. And, he really stood out last year in his junior year, and team started to see that early in the off season. Like we said, Curtis Looper offering him in December, like the day after Christmas, and then going to see him finally in May, and did like a 2-hour sit down with him, his coach and his parents, and everything just clicked. And they liked the nature of him. And if you got to watch the ABC7 clip, and it's out there too, I posted it to the board if anyone was looking to watch it. It's really cool. He's a very laid back guy, but his mom is very active, and it's just like a good how do I say this? like personality. Sorry, I think the personality is what also just checks off that box. They wanted a guy that fits what they're looking for and the mentality, because I think that's a big thing within the Mizzou program is that they all have the same chip on their shoulder and how they approach things. And I think Maxwell Warner will have that exact same look about him. I hope to talk to him again at the end of the month. Whitney Young still hasn't started their summer camp yet, so that's coming up soon, and maybe we can hear about if he actually got to meet Dennis Gates, because that was a big thing I told you guys about, is that the Whitney Young coach Dan Finger got in touch with Dennis Gates and was trying to get them to see each other during Maxwell's official visit, which was the weekend of June 6th to the 8th. So once we figure that out, there'll be maybe some other things there. And it was just a really cool thing. Mizzou football staff sent in a video, congratulating him on his commitment. And then Luther Burden also did one as well. And I wrote about that. Val Warner, Maxwell's mother, got in touch with Luther's aunt recently, so maybe that kind of played in the part. But I think Mizzou also probably did help with that. But I think that's all was cool all around. And I don't know if you guys were watching, but I think Maxwell said something to the extent of oh my God, that's Luther Burden. He wasn't expecting that. So that was pretty cool. It was a great announcement. He was very quick about it, but I think a lot of people were very sentimental just because he's been around ABC7 his entire life.
Yeah, they still get starstruck even though they're high ranked recruits themselves. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, a good lesson too with his mom in they say in journalism it's about who you know. So clearly had some connections maybe there, and obviously having a son recruited by Mizzou probably helped with that. Luther Burden being able to meet with him and chat with him. But Payton, any thoughts on Warner? And feel free to talk about the tape again. I know we did on Sunday. I'm happy to talk about his film. It was so fun. The plays at safety were almost better. He was just running downfield and just trucking guys. I loved his two-way stuff. But I know you do hear about that too sometimes with the up there in Chicago with football. It can be a little bit different, I guess, than some other leagues around the country and in the competition level. But regardless, I think this guy seems like a very good player, very, adept. I think it's fun. He plays both ways.
Yeah, we broke down the tape. It's a lot of fun. I just trust Curtis Looper to turn anyone into a productive running back. He's another assistant that has no doubt earned my trust, earned the benefit of the doubt. You may look at the recruiting rankings and not be blown away, but this is a guy that grabbed a Division II running back and helped him turn him into the leading rusher in a season in Mizzou history. So his tape is also a lot of fun. Like I said, I'm excited to see what he can do. Also, his commitment was a blast. Honestly, kind of the perfect commitment. Didn't have a huge preamble. I know it's because he was on TV, but got to the point. It was cool to see all the ABC7 anchors kind of get pretty emotional about it because he's been around them their whole lives. Also, it was great to see the Mizzou coaching staff get to do a MIZ-ZOU on TV stations all across Illinois after Illinois fans were really giving Mizzou some guff about taking Nick Hankins out of their backyard. So all around, just kind of a fun commitment. It was a good way to start the week for Mizzou.
I know Looper hasn't, had a real high school guy hit recently either, but when you look at it, with how much Mizzou puts focus on the transfer portal, especially at the running back position the past couple of years, Ahmad Hardy, if everything works out for him, he'll be draft eligible during Maxwell Warner's freshman year. So it's one of those things where he'll still get to be around some of these top running backs in the same room if, Maxwell sticks around with the commitment. You're kind of expecting that. And, he'll get to be in the same room with Ahmad Hardy, some other younger running backs. And I think it's going to be maybe a good step forward that maybe there will be some more homegrown running backs in the Mizzou program and not just always going to be, which transfer can they bring in to be an instant impact.
Yeah, no doubt. And these guys are all, you have to develop these guys, whether they're 5 stars or 3 stars for football. And so you sometimes trust a little bit more of these 3 stars to stick around, but and trust that process. Kenny, real quick before we go to quick hits, just I know you touched on it on Sunday's show, and go watch that again if you haven't. But where does Mizzou go from here now? Obviously rolling with that 3 consecutive days of commits. Obviously July coming up. They have 7 in tow. How are they feeling kind of vibes wise with the direction of their class? Maybe how many more they're going to, look to add. I'm sure they're not done, but what's kind of the next few weeks maybe look like on the recruiting trail for Mizzou and maybe some guys to watch as well?
Yeah, so there's NCAA Dead Period in effect, which means like players and coaches can talk, but it's no face-to-face communication. They can't go on visits anymore, so that's why official visits ended this past weekend. So over the next couple months, it's just commit watch, building those relationships with 2027 guys too. But if you want to build out that 7-on-7 team that you're dreaming about, Jack, it's time to add some defensive players.
Yeah.
And Mizzou's feeling really good about 2 defensive backs. Nickel corner Tony Forney Jr. will announce his commitment on July 4th. Auburn, Georgia, Missouri, Pitt, and Wisconsin in that top group. Really just of those schools, it seems like Missouri and Wisconsin are the 2 top dogs competing at the top. Didn't take an official visit to Georgia. He does have a future cast, but I'm sure that will change once more information comes in. Pittsburgh was the last official visit he took, and he snuck one into Auburn in between Missouri and Wisconsin. Jaden McGregory is another one that the Tigers feel great about. He canceled his OV to Kansas, but he took one to Minnesota, which seemed like the long-time fit for him. 3-star safety, used to be in the Rivals 250, so he was a 4-star, at least a 5.8 at one point. Coming out of Iowa, so Eric Link playing a part, Jacob Yoro playing a part. Went to Louisville this past weekend for his 3rd official visit, but he's announcing on 7-7. That's his number. We talked about that. So that's a 3-day stretch of some defensive back commitments, but one's a little bit closer for a commitment date, and that's J.J. Bush, linebacker. He's had a long-time relationship with Derek Nicholson, the linebackers coach, dating back to Miami. Pretty much like a father-son relationship. J.J. really talked about that, hit the nail on the head about how much, he sees him, more than just a coach. And even if he didn't go to Mizzou, he'd always just really respect what Derek Nicholson has provided for him just in advice and just, what the future holds. But he's announcing on July 2nd. So next week, one to keep an eye on. As of right now, he still has that future cast LSU. One of those things we'll see if it changes from the national staff.
There you go. Some names to watch. We'll be on the pulse of it as we head into July in the dead period. Hopefully some more commitments on the way for Mizzou. But for now, and by we, I mean Payton and I, we'll finish off the show with quick hits. Okay, quick hits time. We'll finish out the show with Jersey of the Week first. Hey, Kenny. Yes? What's your Jersey of the Week? Go ahead, Kenny.
My Jersey of the Week, me, definitely not Payton and definitely Kenny, is that Khalief Canty, the guy we just talked about in the news segment, took a photo with former Missouri Tiger J.C. Carles. I actually arranged the meeting and was asked,
Kenny Van Doren, arranged the meeting?
Yeah, and so it's kind of cool. J.C. Carles just, I guess, happened to be at the facility, and Khalief Canty Jr. and him were able to take a photo. This was actually, I believe, before he even officially committed. So cool that they kind of got to have that moment.
That is very cool. Shout out to Kenny for facilitating that. That is cool. And I know he said to mention too that Canty thought it was cool that obviously his linebackers coach Devin Nicholson, of course, played with J.C. Carles at Mizzou. So yeah, pretty cool. They got to meet him over there at Rivals 5-star in Indy. All right, Payton, enough of Kenny's quick hit. What's your Jersey of the Week?
My Jersey of the Week is going to be Ben Sturberg, or actually, let's change it up and make it Phil Prezzi's Celtics jersey that he's wearing in this video, because the Sternberg scoop came back. Longtime friend of the show, Ben Sternberg, was at the alum game between Team Bowers and Team Carroll. He just did it was a normal episode of the Sternberg scoop. He was going up to guys on the sideline. He was talking to Kobe Brown, talking to Demoy Hodge, talked to Trago Million. It was a good time. So just cool to see him back at Mizzou.
It is very fun. I missed the Sternberg scoop. It was iconic part of that program over there in 2023. Oh God, Kobe Brown, man,
Mm-hmm.
Can we get him another year of eligibility? I miss Kobe Brown. If only.
Good.
Yeah, absolute GOAT status. Yeah, shout out to Ben Sternberg, great friend of the program. I would love if he could come back in some full capacity. I don't know if Mizzou could if either, I know Trey Gomillion's on the staff. I don't know if he'd want to be on the staff or even if it was some sort of like social media thing he could do. That would be very fun. He became such an iconic part of that team and documenting them being really good. So that was fun. My jersey of the week is going to go to Camdenton, Mizzou baseball's latest addition. He transferred over from Wichita State, spent 2 seasons there. In those 2 seasons, hit 258, 9 home runs, 60 RBI, 112 career games. He started 106 of those. He also posted 975 fielding percentage. What I was reading about him was Payton was that his main goes in the field, played shortstop for Wichita State. I know he was named to the All AAC tournament team last year after I think he hit something like 9 for 17 or something in that tournament. 7 home runs, 33 RBI last year in 50 starts. So pretty good addition. I feel like Payton for Mizzou baseball has 2 years of eligibility left for the infielder. Oh, I have one other thing before you go. He went to Camdenton. So he is from Missouri originally.
Oh, okay. So he's coming back.
Yes, he's back home. He was a 3-time first team All-State selection as well at Camdenton. He also set, ready for this, he set program records in average hits, doubles, triples, and runs scored. He was the 9th ranked shortstop in the class of 2023.
Yeah, I mean, this Missouri team obviously needs all the help they can get on top of not pitching well. They were really poor defensively. So certainly getting someone with some positional versatility can help. Just looking at his baseball reference, really impressive on base percentage, 352. The slug, I don't know about that. You'd like to maybe see a little more coming into the SEC. Interesting. He looks like he's playing in the Appalachian League in the Summer League. I don't know if the Appalachian League is a wood bat league. If it is, that's really impressive, his numbers over there. But overall, I kind of agree. Looks like a pretty solid pickup. We'll see kind of what else they can do.
He is, of course, the 3rd transfer to come in, along with Kyler Gonzalez and Jamal George, who came over from Texas A&M. Gonzalez was a D2 transfer. Next up, Sean.
I'm like no capping. He's the main bird.
The Shawnee's main bird of the week. Kenny. Yes. What's your Shawnee's main bird of the week, Kenny?
Kenny's Shawnee's main bird of the week is going to be former Missouri pitcher Austin Mazoris. He was actually transferred from the Chicago Dogs, which is just a American Association Independent League baseball team. His contract was transferred to the Blue Jays, so he is now a Blue Jays prospect. He did not allow a run in 28.1 innings in 2025 for the Chicago Dogs. He allowed just 10 hits and he struck out 34. He's always been pretty nasty. I do remember at Missouri, it was not a matter of the stuff, it was a matter of the control for him. I know he briefly was in the minor league system for someone. I'd have to look it up. But he is back in affiliated baseball with the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah, that's exactly. I remember. I feel like we brought him up on the show a couple of times, and him playing pretty well. So that is very exciting. I didn't know that too. It's kind of fun. Like only in baseball, right? Can contracts just be transferred over? Obviously, you're not making a trade for him or anything. It's just like
okay, yeah. It looks like he didn't wind up pitching, but I know for a fact he was at least in. Like he was picked up quickly, I think, by somebody.
Yeah. So there you go. Yeah. So congrats to Austin Missouri. That'll be fun. Hopefully he can stick in their system a little bit and get some good reps in. Payton, your main bird, sir.
My main bird of the week. It's going to. Okay, the bird connection here is going to be the Kansas Jayhawks, but it really is about the Missouri Tigers because the border war is coming back in women's basketball. Thank God they're calling it the border war again and not the Hy-Vee border showdown or whatever it
Corporate.
was.
Getting all corporatized.
So now it's the border war again. Thank God. So that's making a comeback in women's basketball. It's November 15th at the T-Mobile Center. This is unfortunately hurt by the fact that I believe Missouri has a home football game that day. I think people pointed that out. I believe it was against.
I'll check.
I believe it was against Mississippi State. So that stinks, but cool to see that series come back. It actually did make a brief cameo return a couple of years ago, our senior year in 2023. Jack, they played in the NIT,
That's
and
right.
Kansas got the better of Mizzou then.
Yeah, this is super exciting. You are right. Mississippi State at home for football is also that day. So that is unfortunate. Hopefully they're at different times and people can at least tune into both. But yeah, this is super cool. I mean, I've loved what Kelly Harper has done. I have no doubt she had a hand in renewing this. I felt like that was a big effort from Dennis Gates when he first came on. I love what Kelly Harper has been doing to kind of build this program up, and hopefully they can avenge the NIT loss, and hopefully they're not making NITs anymore. Hopefully they're going back to the actual NCAA tournament. My main bird of the week this week is you went right to your best thing. My main bird.
I might have made a mistake here, Jack. I might have forgotten to pull up your.
It's okay. It's okay. I'll just say them. My main bird of the week, while Payton is pulling it up, I'm going to give it to Bryson Beaver. If you don't know who Bryson Beaver is, that's okay. You would not be faulted for that. Bryson Beaver is a football recruit who committed to Oregon. So that's my bird connection. He is an Oregon Duck. At least he's committed to be an Oregon Duck. But his last name is Beaver, which just to me was hilarious. Obviously, Oregon State, they're the Beavers. So you had a guy named Beaver committing to the Ducks. I thought that was pretty funny. I was looking at some quote tweets. One Oregon fan said, "We have a Beaver, a Washington. The only thing missing is a Pullman." Beaver torching the Beavers was another one I saw. Even Beavers want to be Ducks was another one from an Oregon fan.
Play at Beaver Stadium for a conference game.
You could play at Beaver Stadium for a conference game against Penn State. High Top Oregon said the only time I'll ever be a Beaver fan. And Ari Wasserman from On3 said a Beaver going to Oregon is amazing stuff. I just thought it was pretty funny. You gotta some Oregon, some Oregon affiliated company needs to do some sort of NIL deal where he pokes fun at Oregon State. I believe the kid's from California. It'd be even cooler if he was from Oregon. But I just thought this was pretty funny that Beaver is a Duck.
Former Boise State commits.
There you go. All right, Payton, what's your best thing you learned this week?
The best thing I learned this week, this is definitely our first take of this because I didn't screw up massively, is going to be former Mizzou offensive tackle Yasir Durant. He is coming off a UFL championship with the Birmingham Stallions and is now going into the NFL once again. He is going to the New England Patriots, who I believe he was with before. I think, yeah, with the photo there. So, there you go. He was on the DC Defenders. I said Birmingham Stallions. That was Harrison Mevis, of course. He was on the DC Defenders. Now he's making a return to the Patriots in the NFL.
Yeah, very exciting. We need more Tigers in the wild for NFL season coming up. So hopefully Yasir Durant can kind of stick.
And credit to Mark Daniels for having the story on this one that we used.
The scoop. Patriots building up. Hopefully he can stick and be a part of their offensive line rotation there next season. Kenny's best thing he learned this week. I don't really know what he learned per se, but he maybe enjoyed. Best thing he enjoyed this week was the quarterbacks for Mizzou football did their QB Masters with Eli Drinkwitz. This is pretty fun. I enjoyed looking back at the tweets of this. He, of course, went out golfing with Sam Horn, Bo Perbula, and Matt Zollers. They competed. I didn't see Drinkwitz posting who won. The last tweet he had, as you can see on the screen, said which also, go back one slide, Payton, subscribe on the YouTube. That logo that they have, the QB Masters with the edit, I would get that on a t-shirt. I think that's kind of sick.
Yeah, it's cool.
I enjoy they have the regular Masters logo, but it's the state of Missouri. We got the Mizzou logo on the flag. I love that. He didn't post who won. I think the last update was said they were tied after like 5 holes. Couple of missed putts, which is all right. I know Sam Horn missed one. Bo Perbula had a nice approach putt I saw on one clip, but this was just pretty cool. Obviously, the QBs going out. It is a competition this fall, so having a little bit of competition on the golf course, Peyton.
Yeah. Have they done this before? I don't remember them doing it before. But seemed like it was a good time. Yeah, I kind of think they just tied. Honestly, I mean, each one had a putt to win. Drinkwitz was not holding back in his commentary. I mean, he straight up, I think, called. I think it was Bo Perbula's potential to chip out of the rough onto the green. He called it like not a good shot, like just straight up. So
That's bad.
yeah, I mean, you can see here, Drinkwitz tweeted it wound up shorting the green. So it did look like it was a pretty fun competition. I agree. The logo is sick.
I would get that on a shirt. And people would be like, what is this? And I just wouldn't explain, but I would get it on a shirt. I can't really tell you why, but my best thing I learned this week is that Mizzou won the hat edition of the bragging rights game. This was pretty funny. Mizzou Athletics posted. We talked about this before. Mizzou was doing
It's the third time we're talking about this.
Is it the third time? Okay, so we've talked about this hat for the third time. The Cardinals are doing their kind of Mizzou night, and they have the cool hat with the Mizzou logo on it. They did one for Illinois, too, and Mizzou Athletics posted a screenshot that the Mizzou hat was sold out while the Illinois hat was not, which I do think is kind of funny. Illinois fans were maybe rightfully saying, Peyton, that there are less Cardinals fans near them than there are in Mizzou, but I still think it was pretty funny to see. I thought it was funny Mizzou Athletics posted it.
I think this is a tiebreaker. Hankins went to Illinois, Warner went to Mizzou, and Mizzou won the hat competition. So
there you go.
Now Mizzou needs to make it 3-1 at bragging rights in December,
winning the actual basketball game. I have to look at what Illinois' team's going to be next year. They had a lot of guys leave. All right. Do you have a joke, Peyton, to end the show?
I sure do, Jack. We're going to go with this one from our favorite TV series, The Today Show. Jack.
Yes.
Why was the math book sad?
The math book was sad because its problems were not solved.
You pretty much got that. It had too many problems.
Too many problems. There you go.
So, yeah. Good job, Jack.
I hate math. Peyton, what was your least favorite subject in school? Mine was math. I was terrible at math.
I was actually good at math up until right around college algebra and everything. So I didn't hate math. Science was just kind of whatever to me. I liked history. Social studies was cool. I guess if I had to pick, it might be math. It might be science. One of those two, probably. I was never good at science, I don't think.
I was never good at science. It just made up for when you did the labs and you got to set stuff on fire and do whatever.
I don't know what elementary school you were going to.
One where you set stuff on fire. All right, that'll do it for the Unwritten Rule. We hope you enjoyed the show. We'll be back on Sunday. We're going to have a Mount Rushmore Sunday. I'll mention the intro as well, but we just pushed it back because we have a bunch of recruiting news. So we will do a Mount Rushmore for Monday's show. We're going to do our favorite mid-major basketball programs. We're very excited to rank those. So stay tuned for that. I've been solo screened. For Kenny, for Peyton, I'm Jack. We'll see you next time.